I'm Joshua McConnellogue and I'm here today with Raymond McCartney. How's it going, Raymond?
I'm dead on. Josh, how are you?
Aye, not too bad. Raymond, the first question I'm going to ask you is, former Taoiseach Bertie Ahern recently said that a border poll will be irresponsible at the moment. What do you think of these comments, and how would your party feel about the proposition of a border poll?
Well, I think what you're seeing being played out is that increasingly more and more people are talking about the need for and the rationale behind a unity referendum border poll, because I think they've watched Brexit unfold. And it's multi-layered. There's never a single reason for this. But certainly one of the reasons is a lot of people are saying, well, if you want to remain a part of the European Union, then there's an obvious way of doing that, and that's Ireland remaining within it, so therefore a unity poll would be purposeful in that sense. But I also think that people have looked at the behaviour, particularly of the Conservative government in England, and it's very, very obvious, the many observers, that this is, first of all, an argument within the Conservative Party, but an argument also about England, but about English people. You know, the overwhelming majority of the people who voted to Labour all in England, Scotland voted they stay, as did the North. Wales voted they Leave by a narrow majority. So what you have now nearly is a reaction, because I think first of all Sinn Féin played a very key role in promoting the need for a very firm approach. The Brexit was a disaster for Ireland, and it was incumbent on the Dublin government to hold firm along with the 27 countries. So you've seen the role Martina Anderson and our MEPs played in that. I think you're getting a wee bit of a reaction. Is that Bertie Ahern has previously said that that there will be a unity referendum, and in his opinion it will be one. So you have all these forces playing out, and part of it is party politics. Part of it is the antipathy that many of these parties, particularly in 26 counties, have towards Sinn Féin, because Sinn Féin, in my opinion, has the strident arguments. They're the only party organised in the 32 counties, and the only party who, in my opinion, have effectively said that the unity state is the way forward.
Do you think in the case of a united Ireland, do you think that maybe unionist paramilitaries would turn to violence?
Well, you see, you can never. I think it's always very difficult to try and predict the future with any certainty. I think all of us, and I think in recent times, people have a more reflective, more rounded way as to how Irish unification will be delivered. There's no doubt. In the past, people would have seen it as nearly, a flick of a switch. Overnight there's going to be unity, so therefore, the room there for chaos would be obvious. Like the Scottish referendum, in particular, showed us that even if there's a unity poll declared in the morning, it wouldn't be called, and it would be for the parties to agree when it would be called. But you can imagine it wouldn't be called in the short term. It would be nearly a year in advance, or maybe 18 months, as we see in Scotland. And then that's when you lay the ground for all this debate. That's why we have said, even at this minute in time, there should be a discussion about an agreed Ireland. Because I think too many people, for a variety of reasons, but in this sort of sense, this is just going to be a welding together of a 6-county and 26-county state. We have always said that's not the way it should be. This is an opportunity to do things differently. So therefore, unionism will have its opportunity to put on the table, what they, in the outcome of the majority of people wanting to unite Ireland, what type of situation they would like to find themselves in. And in many ways, that debate will only become real when we're in the real debate. At the minute you can say, oh, it's never going to happen, they can rest on that. Or we don't want to go into 26 counties. Sure, we have a national health service in the north that's free at the point of delivery, as if our people wouldn't want to see that as part of the way of harmonising. And it's all that rationale. So the unionist paramilitaries, loyalist paramilitaries, I mean, if the space is denied them, then it's difficult to see why anybody would want to resist it violently. You can never say it's never going to happen, much in the same way I don't think we should be having an level thing. It's going to happen, therefore, what do we do in this place? I think we have the rational political debate. We create the circumstances where you have a state that's based on equality, fairness, integrity, respect. You know, there will be issues around identity. You know, it's already been sort of talked about. You know, in the New Ireland, can people have dual nationality? I mean, I think people are opposed, teasing out what does it mean, etc., etc., etc.
Do you think the Loyalist and Republican paramilitaries pose a threat, like a real threat to peace in Ireland?
I don't think they do. I think that, you know, we've just come out of a very protracted, over 30 years of conflict. But then there was like a sort of critical mass. There was a widespread support because people knew that the current status quo had to be changed. But running alongside that from a very early stage, it took maybe a while for it to kick in. But there was always that sort of sense of the articulation of not only the need for a political alternative, but as actually an alternative put on the table. In the last 20 years, you know, people call them dissident groups. In the last 20 years, they've had no political impact. Now, that's not to say that they have the potential, and they have inflicted hurt and harm and grief on people. But it's not as if anybody within the political process is looking at them and saying, well, we need to be mindful that they're saying A, B, C, and D. I don't think they have any political philosophy. It's sort of rhetoric of, you know, a unity state, but without any political platform. And I think that we Republicans who came through that conflict, seeing the emergence of Sinn Féin under the leadership of Gerry Adams and Martin McGuinness, an alternative, the need for a democratic process, and once that democratic process was, if you like, provided for through the Good Friday Agreement, and all the big issues that were tackled, and a pathway towards United Ireland, then I think they were nearly defrocked of any ability of having a political impact. They can have a physical impact, but will not have a political impact, so therefore that's why, in my opinion, they're always on the fringes.
Do you think that it has been, for these younger dissidents, do you think it has been romanticised what happened in the Troubles, if they haven't actually experienced it themselves?
I mean, it's always difficult to you know, speak for other people, but they're certainly, in my opinion, misguided. You know, I think if anybody who is involved in armed conflict, given that we have come out of 30 years of armed conflict, has to ask themselves the question, you know, what's the political consequences of the actions which I'm taking? Okay, in the early 1970s, in the complete absence of politics, you know, war prevailed, and people could have said then, you know, and I had been part of that generation, that you would have believed that you could have fought the British to a standstill. You would have had a Vietnam type situation where nearly a withdrawal overnight. I think we all started to realise the problem which we were involved in, the conflict that we were involved in, was more complex than that. So therefore it needs a political resolution, because any political conflict needs a political resolution. There may be a military aspect of it, but then that's removed. Then you have a political aspect. So romanticise, possibly, you know, it's maybe too strong a word, because it makes it look as if they're being brainwashed, etc., etc. But what I would say to them is, you know, ask yourself, what's the consequence of that action? Is it going to have any impact on the overall political situation? Is it going to change, in my opinion, the path which is now nearly irreversible? We're now in what many people are talking about, endgame politics. United Ireland is within touching distance, but touching distance can still be a long way away unless you work at it. And the way to work at it is to convince more and more people that a unity state is the way forward. I think what they do in terms of military actions does not convince one single person. You know, well, maybe one single person would be wrong to say, but certainly it doesn't persuade enough people to say, yes, that's going to have the impact that you said, it's because it's not having that impact.
You said United Ireland's within touching distance. Do you feel now that the United Ireland's closer than ever it was before?
I mean, obviously, because you know, in the past you could always, you know, it hasn't been realised, but I think there's more people now. You know, even you know, the Brexit argument. You know, even hear people within the Tory party saying, if there's a no-deal Brexit and the level of consequence is a unity state. And the argument you see around the unity state is about people in Ireland having the right to self-determination. That's what we have always said it was about. So therefore, even if people have it for a narrow, and I hate using that word, but it's in my best interest because I'm a businessman. I don't want the market interrupted, or my rights. I don't want my rights interrupted. But basically, they're all having a discussion, which makes sense. And that sense is that Ireland, as a single entity, can stand up, be part of Europe, and deliver for its citizens good governance if we agree upon it.
Do you feel that in the event of a united Ireland that your party would be the right party to lead Ireland in this new era?
I suppose, as the saying goes, I'm going to say, of course, right? Well, you see, politics is all, to me, politics is about policy, opinion, representation, and then activism. So therefore, in my experience, and I mean, my experience is around the north and the main, and certainly helping out in the 26 counties in the past, we have a party that strongly believes in what we're doing. So therefore our activism is reflected on it. So come the eventuality of a 32 county unity state, then Sinn Féin will be to the fore of it. But we have to put our policies in front of people, and then people give you the mandate. A mandate should never be taken for granted. You have to work for it, and then not only will you work for it, but you have to work at it. In other words, you know, in the context of a 32 county Ireland, people will want your policy to reflect on their daily lives. And if it doesn't, then they'll vote accordingly. So we have to have policies, we have to have a party, we have to have a service, a representation that's second to none. So as people would say, there's a party I want to, there's a party I want to be in government because I know will deliver for me what I want.